What's up, everybody? This is Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse for our third off-season power ranking episode within divisions, and we have got a pretty awesome division to cover today. And for our second episode in a row now, we've got Jordan and Mafali back with us this evening. What's going on, y'all?
Again, good to be here.
Yeah, glad to be back, man. It feels like not too long ago we were all doing this for the last Central Division.
I know, right? Maybe because we're recording them the same night.
It's Central night.
Yeah. We're doing a double header tonight. Even though you guys will get this episode probably later this week, I would imagine is when I'll release it. I don't want to do them the same day, otherwise no one will watch the other episode. So I don't know exactly when this one will get released, but you're listening now. You're listening now. That's all that matters. And because of that, we really don't have any more new news. New news and notes from the league because we're recording the same night as episode 2 of the Power Rankings. So, only thing I can think of, Jordan, is by the time people are listening to this, we're a little bit closer to the draft. We've got, 3-4 more weekends till draft day, which is pretty exciting. It's on Saturday. It's the last Saturday of August, for those who don't know. We haven't announced an official start time, but Jordan and I have loosely discussed this. It's probably going to be early to mid-afternoon, more than likely, because I know we have some people that sometimes have to work on Saturdays. We also have someone on the West Coast, so they're like 2 to 3 hours behind us, so we got to keep that in mind as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces to consider when figuring out this draft time. Hopefully we can find something, though, that works for everyone. And we are looking for at a pretty relatively long draft compared to most other people's fantasy drafts because of how many rounds we have. We do have a lot of picks that have already been made, so that's going to shorten that time by a lot. But even with that said, I'd imagine it's going to be at least bare minimum 3-hour draft. Just bare minimum. I'm going to say that again. Bare minimum, probably 3 hours to be ready to buck win on draft day.
And we want everyone to come to the draft, but if you're not going to make it, it'd be nice to know that as soon as possible. So
Yes.
if you already know you have something coming up, let us know and we can start getting you ready to draft online.
Yeah, honestly, the draft moves a lot faster when we have as many people as possible in one location, just because you don't have to worry about technical difficulties. Also, it just goes by so much faster. We've done it both ways now, thanks to COVID. So, I think obviously we can help people if they need to draft remotely, but preferably we'd love to have as many people as we can in person, especially if you're close by within driving distance to make that trip for the weekend or for the day even.
Yeah.
But let's dive in. We have our power rankings. We got to get back into that mode. And we've got the Conference A Central Division that we're hopping into tonight, folks. This is a good one. Obviously, in here we have got Mafali's team, the Mufasa Moneymakers. We also have Hunter of Champions, which is Hunter's team. We also have Hatchling Slashers, which is Armando's team, and we have our newest GM to the league. We have John Viveros, also known as Voodoo if you play Retro Bowl, who is running the New Orleans Voodoo. So this is a pretty interesting division to say the least. So let's start it off with the team who came in last, and the guy who's already on the show, the Mufasa Moneymakers, who finished 2-10 last year. Mafali's all-time record is 29-35. Part of that losing record is because of last season, of course. That's 10 losses there. But I mean, dude, you got a ton of draft capital: 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and then 11th and 12th just for fun. With Trevor Lawrence, J.K. Dobbins, Michael Thomas, who is hurt, but no big deal because you can draft a replacement easily. Trevor Morag at safety, Damian Harris, a running back, as a backup. And then you got Chandler Jones, of course, who's an absolute stud at defensive end. I don't know who wants to start this off between the two of you guys, but I'll let y'all pick.
Well, what do you have to say for yourself?
What do you have to say?
Yeah.
Speak for yourself, damn it.
I'm not going to say much about my team other than, how it is. Everybody knows already. This team could easily be all mixed up by the time everybody hears this. Like, who knows? Like, you guys could listen to this next week, and like half the picks and players I have on here could have been traded already. So, I will put that out there. But excited to start the year. Not too scared, not too happy with my team. So right in the middle.
I got a question for you, and you don't have to give any details, but how many trades do you have like percolating right now? Just for shits and giggles, like how many do you have on the back burner at this very moment?
Only 2 right now, just
Only
because I
2.
consensusly said we'll wait till like the draft time. But there's 2, that are out there right now that are kind of just sitting out there, that I've gotten maybes, so mostly involving picks, nothing really for players right now, but that could always change based off of like negotiations. But
The trade
there's 2 sitting there that I'm looking at. So
yeah. So I guess I'll talk a little about his team. Since he doesn't want to say too much, but as a Clemson fan, who doesn't love Trevor Lawrence, the next big fish. So I love that get. J.K. Dobbins, I think, will have a really big step in that Ravens offense. I think Gus Bus will still get a few carries, but I think Mark Ingram being out the door, it really sets up for Dobbins to be the guy. And I think he'll take his opportunities and run with it. Pun very intended. But I don't. He could have a really good roster if he hits on Damian Harris, which I know from talking to him, he's really high on Damian Harris, but just haven't trusted Bill Belichick on giving carries to one back in probably a good 10 years. But Chandler Jones can come in and be a top defensive lineman, especially if he doesn't move to another team and he's got J.J. Watt potentially also receiving double teams and things like that. I mentioned this off the episode. I really hate it for his team that Michael Thomas is out because clearly he's a top 5 fantasy receiver when he's healthy. I don't think it would really matter if Breeze or Spanky was throwing him the ball, but he would have been nice to have. But yeah, but then you go to the draft capital. He's got more than enough picks to make up for that. He can easily. It's not easy to replace Michael Thomas, but he can easily find a productive receiver. It's not like Michael Thomas is out for the season. Knock on wood, but he can easily find production in his place for the 4 to 5 weeks that he needs to, and then he's got another first round and the 2 seconds, like you mentioned. Also, a guy that needs to start looking heavy linebacker, but on the last episode, he was really big on being able to stream quality linebackers. So he's going to have to prove us that he can do that. But overall, a lot better than last year. Draft capital starting to stack up for next season. So I like where the moneymakers stand at this moment.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to make it known, too, that the reason for the bad record is last year my first 3 picks were Michael Thomas, Dak Prescott, and Chandler Jones, all of which up for the year by like week 3 or 4. Like, luckily, I traded Dak before that happened, but
yeah, terrible injury luck, and I know
it was rough.
That Dak trade hit Colby as well, so
yeah, it did because I got rid of him probably like 2 weeks before that happened. But
rough year.
Yeah, I mean, honest to God, if all those guys are healthy, you could have easily, if not made the playoffs, probably gotten 500 at least with your overall record. I mean, that was a pretty solid team.
Nobody else in the league would have tanked the way you tanked with the amount of assets you acquired. So kudos.
You tanked with grace.
There was definitely a big purpose to it. So
he said, "If I'm a tank, I'm a fucking tank."
Yeah, no doubt. I got rid of any talent I could.
No, and obviously we don't have a Kids' Choice Award because we're recording this before I was able to release the polls, unfortunately, which is my fault. I totally got distracted over the weekend, and honestly, I just forgot to do it.
Well, maybe we can release this episode with the poll to give voters more
Ooh.
depth into the poll.
That's true. That'd make
I
it
was just gonna
interesting.
retweet it and quote it and just try to get all the clout I could. Use my clout.
Yeah.
Votes.
I mean,
But I know Hunter and Mondo don't really use Twitter. I don't know about Voodoo's, but I know the
yeah,
other
he
two don't
does.
use Twitter, so I'll be the only one on there probably just trying to get people. Hey, people, vote for mine, and I'll give you a follow.
Yeah.
Vote for this team, and I'll follow your account.
Follow your account. Oh man, but I mean, honestly, like, I mean, we didn't even mention this, and I didn't put in the graphic, but Mafali's already got picks for 2022 already. So, like, I mean, it's picks on picks on picks, essentially. And if anyone knows
and I know
anything, it's that 2023 is going to be the year to have draft picks. He doesn't have picks for that year yet, but if there's anything I know about you, it's that you will have picks for that year, no matter what.
Yeah. Eventually. But yeah, I think the next year's picks can definitely be used this year too to make trades. That's another reason I was big on trying to get them because once the draft's over, people are going to definitely things happen, injuries happen. People like me feel like me and Cody last year in particular were two guys that traded away some good talent because we knew we had too many injuries to really do anything to compete. And when that stuff happens, it's nice to have extra capital to offer somebody for a potential big time player that could put me over the hump. So, even with all these picks this year, none of them, they're just picks. You don't know what's going to happen with them. But I think the next year's picks are a little bit safer because then I can use them to take somebody, now that I know is going to produce and what they're doing this year and everything. So, definitely a lot of trades in the future coming.
There's some people who play fantasy football for the trash talk. Some people play fantasy football for the competition. Some people play fantasy football because they just love football. But Volley plays fantasy football for the trades. Mark my words.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
that is
100%.
that is what keeps him coming back is the trades.
Yeah, that was spot on. That's spot on.
Yeah,
100%.
fantasy sports in general. I have the pleasure of playing some fantasy baseball with him, and he's about the same way.
Yeah, it's fun.
But yeah, honestly, like maybe I'll hold to the end to make my pick on this division. I'm gonna hold out. That way I can roll with this, and everyone can get my live reaction to each team.
Yeah, no doubt. I like the idea.
So let's move it on to Hunter of Champions here. Came in third place in the division, finished 3-9, not much better. His all-time record though as GM in the league is 35-19. He has a second round pick and doesn't pick again until the early sixth. He has 3 6-round picks, so I guess he could trade all 3 of those and move up if he wanted. But honestly, he doesn't even have to do that because he has plenty of depth as another team that has a lot of talent on the roster, but maybe not as much draft capital if you need it. But he's got Pat Mahomes, Najee Harris, Steve Montgomery, Devontae Adams, Jermaine Sherwood, Isaiah Simmons, Bud Dupree, and Corey Littleton. If there's any knock that I have on Hunter, I set it off the show. It's that I do not like this linebacker core at all. I'm not confident that Corey Littleton comes back and is like a top 12 guy, maybe even not a top 24 guy. Isaiah Simmons has yet to prove himself yet as an NFL linebacker. Sherwood's a rookie, so that's that. Which means, and he also doesn't have a defensive back, which isn't a big deal for most people, but he's got to make a choice. Does he go get a linebacker or a DB? Because he doesn't pick again to the 6th. And I guess, in my opinion, I'll make the argument, you've already got 3 linebackers. Why on earth would you get a 4th when you don't even have your first DB yet? I would go get a DB probably in that second-round pick, which then leaves him with the linebacker core that he's got. And again, I'm not a big fan of it. But the rest of his team is loaded. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he can survive without that. But I do like his team overall.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next. But I really like Hunter. Really like Hunter's team. I'll be the spoiler of the group, and I'll say this is going to be my pick to win the whole division. And I'll go ahead and say, go ahead and go for that DB, Hunter, because I am a believer in Mr. Isaiah Simmons and that he'll have his second year step up. So go get the DB and then rely on probably the best fantasy quarterback there is in Patrick Mahomes. I feel like he's going to have 2 running backs. I don't know what their production quite is going to be, but they're both going to get mega workloads, I believe, in their respective offenses. Huge win for Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers coming back for his supposed last ride. Bud Dupree pass rushing in Tennessee. He might have to eventually look elsewhere, but D line's replaceable. So Jordan's going to trust in Isaiah Simmons, and that could just be me fooling myself. But I feel like if Hunter goes and hunts a really quality starting defensive back, that there's no reason he shouldn't win this division.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. I mean, I disagree with like the Isaiah Simmons thing. That's definitely like a Clemson thing for you, I guess. But in the end, I think, defense for him is something like I keep emphasizing that you can stream. So not a big fan of his defense, but his offense is elite. He's got the best quarterback in football, best wide receiver in football. So, two guys that are definitely going to probably finish top 5 in like fantasy wise.
Yeah.
And then, Najee Harris has a chance to really explode, I think. Montgomery is solid. Like, I agree he'll have a workload, but I'm still not a huge, he's not going to wow me. I don't see him finishing top 10 as a running back. But Najee Harris, I definitely could see finishing as a top 10 running back this year. And so his offense, no matter what happens, I think can carry him until he figures out what's going on with that defense,
Yeah.
Because I'm also not too huge about Dupree. I mean, I like his, he's a good player, but I want to see how he plays, with his new team and, not playing alongside like an elite, another elite DN. So we'll see how he does.
I agree with that, but I also feel the defensive line is streamable as well.
Yeah, no, I think the whole defense. I think defense he could figure it out. So
yeah,
I mean, and this is something I haven't mentioned yet, but I mentioned off the show is that he has a big piece here that he could trade and get either a really high pick for in our league, or maybe even a solid defensive player if he wanted. But that's David Montgomery. There's guys out there who are looking at Mike Davis and are drooling over themselves right now. They are looking at Mike Davis like he is. I don't even know. Like he's Beyonce. Like, I mean, they're in love with him because he is the best back, and he's the best back in the draft pool. David Montgomery, what do you even compare him to? Because I mean, what's more beautiful than Beyonce? I don't even think that's possible.
Rihanna.
Well, there.
Well,
some may say, but
some may say.
But no, I mean, David Montgomery, obviously someone would pay a high price. I mean, easily a first round pick, maybe even an early first round pick. I mean, if you're Mike and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna use a 101 on Mike Davis, screw it. Get David Montgomery because he's better, or at least the situation he's in is better. So, I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes because that's a huge piece that he can move if he wanted.
Yeah, maybe if Dirty Mike would answer the phone,
I know, right?
He might like Rihanna.
He might like Rihanna. Oh man. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Hunter. We'll keep it moving to our second place team division from last year. And we're moving up a win each time here. But we have Hashling Slashers went 4-8 last year. His all-time record is 10-5. He's only been in the league 2 years up till this point. He doesn't pick till the early second-round pick, so no big deal. He has a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, sixth, and so on. So plenty of decent draft capital there. And a solid roster. He's got Lamar Jackson, easily a top 5 quarterback. Justin Jefferson, who is a rising star in the NFL and the LCC. Jermaine Awusu, I cannot say his full last name. I'm sorry, everyone. A linebacker. Fred Warner, linebacker. Leonard Fournette and Zach Moss, a running back, though. And that's my biggest knock on the Hashling Slashers is that Mike Davis isn't even an option for this guy. Like, Armando's in a situation where I don't even know. Like, he literally, I mean, maybe you're not going to get a first-round pick, obviously, from Armando if you're trading him a running back, but maybe he can offer you something else in return. He doesn't have that, but he needs a running back. He desperately needs a running back because I don't feel comfortable with either of those guys. And honestly, I will say this, out of the 3 teams we've talked about, probably my least favorite of the 3 so far.
I can agree with that, and that's tough to say when you have Lamar Jackson as your cornerstone.
And Justin Jefferson, a receiver. He's all like him, too.
Yeah. I mean, top 5 quarterback, potential top 10 receiver and top 5 linebacker in my opinion. But like you said, you don't really know what you're going to get out of running back, and that's a really important position, not to know what you're going to get. But yeah, Zach Moss. I don't even know if you would call that a split anymore with
Nah.
Singletary. Um, and Leonard is splitting. I mean, I feel like Tampa's got 3 or 4 backs sometimes. Just anybody that plays with Tom Brady, really. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna hurt. Maybe Jeremiah Uwusu Kamarawo. I probably butchered that. Maybe steps up and he can have 2 um, upper echelon type linebackers, and that kind of helps ease the burden. But other than that, I like the 3, but I just don't know if he's going to have the depth to win the. He's not going to be an easy out, but I don't think he can win the division either.
And here's my honest opinion too. Don't don't get a running back with that 202. I know you might feel pressured because right, these are my 2 running backs, but no one at the 202 is really going to make a difference in my opinion at the running back position. You're better off going to get a badass flex player and going that 0 RB approach to fantasy football where you stack your roster everywhere else to make up for that lackluster performance of running back week in and week out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he also needs a safety still, so I'm sure he'll end up, attacking that safety position. But there's a few good safeties out there, so I'm sure he can get one with that second-round pick. But, for him, like you said, it really is just the running backs. But, you could try your best to trade in season or, just try your best to try to stream somebody eventually. But when somebody gets hurt, that's really just more about being high on the waiver list more than anything. But he'll be fairly high, I guess, either way. And I like Fred Warner a lot. So I think that's the one good thing is that at least he's got top guys at like quarterback, wide receiver, and linebacker. So at least he's not like desperate at like more than one position. It's really just running back, and safety and D end is something he can get in the draft. He's got a 3rd round pick and 2 fourths. You can easily get a good D end with that 3rd round pick. I feel like he could probably get like a top end DN there, honestly, depending on where guys start to go in the draft for DNs, because there's a lot of them in the draft, honestly, from what I've been looking at.
Yeah.
And so he could fill that position, and then by the 4th round, he'll have a full roster, and that's always a good thing to do. When you could fill up your starting roster in the 4th round, or maybe even earlier if he makes a trade or something. So we'll have to see what he does. But I think he definitely has to figure out the running back position, but he knows that. And, everywhere else, I think he could feel pretty solid at. So I think that's one good thing. If you have to worry about running back, at least you don't have to worry about more than one, another position too. It's really just that. Everything else, I feel like with his draft capital, he can easily go, fill those holes.
Yeah. I mean, teams have proved in this league too. You don't have to have a top 5 running back in this league to win a championship. I mean, look at Jameson last year. I mean, he kind of limped into the playoffs. I mean, not limped in. He was undefeated. Sorry. At the running back position, he was limping into the playoffs. But he went 12-0, dude. I mean, how often does that happen?
Yeah.
He didn't even have a solid running back.
I mean, I know James Robinson did finish as a top 5 running back last year, but he was a waiver pickup, and Daquan was in the championship last year, and that was his running back,
Yeah.
Because I remember trading him James Robinson because that was part of my my overall tank job, I got some picks from J.K. Dobbins, which now looks great. I got a pick in J.K. Dobbins in return for James Robinson, which now looks great because Dobbins is, looking like the lead back in Baltimore, and James Robinson is like, going to be competing and I think going to be the backup eventually behind Travis Etienne. So,
Week 1.
it made sense for me, like, so, but it also helped Daquan a lot. It's one of those trades where, it helped me for the future, but it really sprungboard Daquan to a championship because I don't think he gets there. Because I think before that trade, he was really just he was relying on Dobbins, and he was too inconsistent each week.
Yeah.
And he got James Robinson, and James Robinson had a really consistent year, and, it put him over the top. So, and speaking on Mondo, the same thing can happen for him, You make a trade in the year, willing to give up, like, a good player or at another position or a guy that might be, like I said, for me, that was like a more of a future guy. Like I kind of saw Dobbins as a better future player than a current player. or just picks, and you can go get that guy that you need. And there's plenty of teams that might be willing to trade running backs eventually.
And maybe something does happen that we aren't expecting. Maybe Tampa does decide to pound Leonard Fournette out, but
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe Devin Singletary goes down and Buffalo has no other choice but to roll Zach. But we'll see. I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm not sitting here ruling out the Hastings Slashers out of the playoff race, but in terms of this division, winning this division, I would just like the other two teams a little bit more in terms of draft capital plus rosters. I like their situation a little bit more, me personally. Yeah. But we'll move on to our last team here tonight, and who finished first in the conference last year. At least the team did. The GM is new to the league. Replaced the She's the Man, who was coach / I don't know what you want to call, owned by my wife, who's no longer in the league. But we have John Viveros come in here with New Orleans Voodoo, and he's inheriting a 10-2 team. So obviously expectations are very high. He has a lot of draft capital, 2 first-round picks, a second, third, fourth. You get the picture. He has all the early picks. He's got Zach Wilson, a quarterback. That is my biggest knock on this team. Josh Jacobs, a running back. Tyreek Hill and George Kittle, receivers. So, plenty of depth there. And then you got Devin Bush, a linebacker, who I love, and Sam Hubbard, a defensive line, who I think is solid. I think the biggest takeaway for me is that it's not that he can't fill the remaining holes in his roster with the picks, because he can easily do that. It's that he's stuck with Zach Wilson as his quarterback. I think that's what I'm worried about for him. But I guess if he can acquire enough top-level guys in those first 4 picks that he makes, he can make up for whatever lackluster performance that Wilson may have. And who knows, maybe I'm dead wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Wilson's, NFL Rookie of the Year and Rookie LCC Player of the Year, and really puts on a show for everyone. But, history in New York doesn't show us that. So I'm kind of leaning towards him being more of an average guy, especially in his rookie year. But I think some of the other players in his team would definitely be explosive, and Tyreek Hill is one of them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on I'm a big Zach Wilson hater. I'm sorry to that man. But I'm just not down with the big Mormon quarterback. But other than that, I mean, Josh Jacobs definitely has potential, although the Raiders never seem to get him to his full potential. Tyreek Hill, potential for top 5, explosive. Devin Bush, really good. I really like Kittle, but I personally don't like 2 pass catchers on my roster, like starting them. But if you're going to do it, you might as well do it with those type of elite names. Sam Hubbard, always like steady, like the tortoise in the hare. But but he's going to field a really good roster. He's got 2, they're late round, but they're 2 first-round picks. So he's going to fill out this roster really nice. I just think it kind of is a stinker for him to fill it out around Zach Wilson, like you said. But he could just – I can't wait to see how he drafts, because he's new. If I knew him a little better and knew what his mindset was, I could go a little deeper. But I'm going to be really interested to see what he thinks he can shoot for and make Zach Wilson that guy to be able to make a run. But so solid team. I'm excited to see what he does with his capital, but not a fan of his leader.
I like Pat. You referenced the New York has had bad history. I don't care where Zach Wilson went. I was not going to be a fan of him. I just didn't like him out of the draft. Really awkward guy. Just I don't see I guess maybe I'm overanalyzing it a little bit, but just seeing that whole how he handled being around all the other the top players and how he felt so awkward. How's he going to handle being in a stadium full of thousands of people while guys are rushing at him? I feel like he's going to be a guy that freezes up and just doesn't handle that well, especially New York media. That's a different beast.
Yeah, this is New York.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how bad the Jets are. That the New York media will always be a different beast for players. They really don't. I think a lot of them maybe take that, for granted. But moving on from him, Josh Jacobs. I don't think it's ever a good sign when your backup running back is the highest paid backup running back in football, which Kenyon Drake is. Josh Jacobs is a good player, but to me, John Gruden and Mike Mayock are decently smart guys. I don't think they, made Kenyon Drake the highest paid backup just for him to just as an insurance policy, which I mean, he still kind of is, I feel like, obviously you always want to have a good backup in case your starter gets hurt, but he's not just going to sit there on the bench waiting for Jacobs to get hurt. I think he's going to get a good amount of playing time, see a good amount of snaps, could see a lot of goal line snaps. And, so I think that's a little bit of concern for Jacobs. Hill obviously is amazing. Could, is easily a top 3 wide receiver, could be the best in football. Devin Bush, a little bit of questionable on him, coming off the injury. We'll see how he does this year. Obviously was a high pick, before, but, you never know how they'll actually pan out. And then, Kittle is Kittle. He'll be great. And Hubbard, I actually do like, is a guy that he got late round of the the waiver draft, second round. So Sam Hubbard is actually a pretty good DN. I think he could, be a pretty good starter, actually. So he doesn't have to really address that in the draft right away. And with his 2 first-round picks, he'll definitely fill some voids at safety that he needs, or linebacker, whichever way he wants. Could do both, probably. So, he definitely has a good amount of picks and a solid team. I'm not sold on Wilson and Jacobs. Those are probably – or even Bush, but I'd say more so Wilson and Jacobs. But other than that, though, I really do like, Hill, Kittle, and Hubbard. So I like where his team's going, especially with those 2 first-rounders in that early second.
Yeah. No, I mean, he has, like you said earlier, he's got the draft capital to make up for any lackluster performance by Wilson. I'm not really worried about that as much because 2 first-round picks, I mean, bam, you go get yourself a defensive back, your other pick, you go get yourself another flex player at linebacker, and then the second-round pick, I mean, what do you even get at that point? Like, I guess a defensive end. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying here. Like, you got plenty of room for error from Zach Wilson with his picks. So, for me, though, like, all right, I guess I need to pick my team now since we're at the end of the episode. In review, we've got Mufasa Moneymakers, again, loaded team, plenty of picks early on. Even with Michael Thomas out, that doesn't even worry me with Mufali's team, just because of the picks alone. With Hunter, exact opposite. He has a loaded roster, but with not much draft capital in a situation, like I said earlier, where I am a little concerned about the linebacker position and what he's able to add there to it. And then Hashling Slashers. I think Hashling Slashers easily is my last place team in this division at the moment. I think second place, I'm going to have to give it to Mafali, actually, for first. Second, I'd probably give it up to... This is where it's hard, because I don't know if I pick Hunter here or New Orleans Voodoo. I mean, Pat Mahomes is going to drag Zach Wilson in the 2 weeks they play each other through the mud. So I may have to go Hunter here, honestly. I may have to do it.
Yeah, and with the 3 of us hating on him, it's definitely going to be Zach Wilson, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I hope he proves us wrong. That'd be kind of cool. For at least,
I'll admit it. We'll do a whole podcast on how we were wrong about Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Right? I will, as a Patriots fan, I will not say it'll even be cool if he proves me wrong. That might be another reason why I'm all out on Zach Wilson, just because he's with the Jets. Like, I don't like the Jets. I don't like, anything. I don't like them, and I guess I'm not a big fan of the BYU. So,
yeah, we'll see. I mean, honestly, I like easily 3 or 4 of those teams in that division to make the playoffs. Easily. I mean, I think the competition this year and last year is just so dang even between teams that it's hard for me to sit here and be like, oh, I like this team most in the conference, because I don't feel that way about any team in the entire league. I just think there's so many teams with so many good pieces. It's not like it used to be. In our league, you would have, a dominant dog in the fight, and I don't feel that way anymore. I think you've got multiple teams that are just right there neck and neck. Even if not even necessarily the division, but the conference, the league as a whole, I think you're going to find a lot of close games this year. in a lot of situations where it comes down to an injury or a bye week or something like that on who wins and who loses.
Yeah, I could definitely be in a close division.
Yeah. Any final thoughts though before we hop off?
Yeah, no, I'll just go ahead and say I'd probably pick Hunter for my pick for the division. Obviously, I think I'll give him some good competition, but I'm not going to just pick my team. So I would say Hunter's team is my favorite to win the division. So I think he's got a good roster. We'll see what Simmons does.
You got
I've been
to
seeing
believe
a lot of podcasts that there's going to be an odd man out there in with the Cardinals between Collins and Simmons and Buda Baker. There's only so many tackles go around. So one of them will be the odd man out. We'll see who it'll be. But if that pans out for him, his team could really just take off because his offense is really elite at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna be a fun race for this division. I mean, the Conference B Central Division. I know last year we hyped it up a lot in the off season, and we called it like the toughest division in the league. It ended up being the worst division in the league.
Yeah, the worst.
The worst. I think between three of the four teams in the division, like you guys had like 7 wins total. So
like I said, I finished second to last. Hunter finished third to last, and then Mondo finished sixth to last. So we were all up there within the top 7 picks of the draft.
Yeah, it was an arms race to see who get the 101, I guess.
Yep.
But Mike beat you guys out.
Yeah, our division leader said, "Thanks for the division title. Now I'm leaving."
Yeah, basically.
I'm out.
But no, it'll be fun. This will be a fun division to keep watching. Who knows? Maybe I'll do something later on, like division all stars, like best players for each division, and that way you can kind of see like who's the better division. Blah blah blah. I don't know if that even means anything, but yeah, we'll see you guys next week. The goal, like I said in the previous episode, is to do our mock draft that week, or at least our mock draft episode along with one of these. I don't know which division we'll do, but obviously that means it's going to be a longer episode. So just keep that in mind, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think next episode is probably one of the better ones we've done all year, in fact. So we'll catch you guys next week. See ya.
Take it easy.
See ya.